so gonna go over a few kind of basics on chainsaw sharpening and different types of sharpeners that are available to you. Essentially, if you look at a chainsaw chain, you're gonna have left hand and right hand cutters. And so, you know, some teeth are gonna be facing this way, some teeth are gonna be facing this way, right? And so like a traditional hand file, you know, with a guide is gonna have a couple of different lines on it. First, this file size is sized according to the type and size of chain that you have. So like this is 3/8 pico chain, which is going to take a smaller file than say a standard 3/8 or a 325 chain. This file set here I have right now is the 5/32 file, which is for the 3/8 pico, and it says it right here on the guide. Generally speaking, we're filing at a 30-degree angle. Has a line here, you see a line here and a line here. I'm going to do this right-hand cutter going from the inside out, and I'm trying to keep this 30-degree line lined up with that bar when I'm filing. What this guide is doing is actually running on top of the tooth to keep my depth correct, so that like in the gold of the tooth, my file is sitting not too deep. I'm going to lift up a little bit, come back, drive forward with some down pressure, lift up, come back. And so you can do it, you know, in a more smooth motion, but you're not dragging backwards on your file, you're only pushing forwards. This type of a file, the right way to do it is going to be sharpening the tooth and then coming back through with a flat file and doing the rakers, which is going to be like in the pack here. It's just a flat file. There's a depth gauge that you can use to actually see the depth of the tooth. Sorry, I wasn't prepared here, but essentially with a depth gauge, you can see the depth of the raker, which is actually what controls how much you are cutting off of your tooth at a time. So if I lay this down on top of here, I can get to where like this depth gauge is not sticking out above this guide, and that means that I am at the right setting so that the height of this tooth is just over the height of that thing by, you know, 20 thousandths or so. This sharpener here does the same thing essentially, but it does both steps in one. So this is going to have your round file and your flat file. Again, this is sized according to the type and size of chain. So this is again is that 3/8 pico chain. This one you'll see has a bunch of files and bars, and there's a little picture of a saw, so I can see the direction of the saw matches the direction of this thing, and it shows me I'm doing that same tooth. And what it's doing is it's going to sit in there on this lower tooth and sit on top of the raker with this flat file and do both of them. And again, I have guidelines that show me my 30-degree angle, so I can go out, come back, go out, and then as I want to swap to the other direction teeth, I flip this over, picture of my saw now changes, doing the other tooth, and this file will sit in there. This bar and this bar are riding on cutting teeth, so it keeps my depth consistent, my raker height is consistent. Some guys also use these little 12-volt electric grinders, essentially to sharpen out in the field. You hook them up to a battery with the alligator clips, and you have a little stone tooth on there, and again, you set this gauge, and you can sharpen each tooth. This one's convenient because it does it very fast. Getting a good quality on there, sometimes it's tricky, and guys might take off too much tooth. Quite frankly, the easiest way is to bring it in here. We can sharpen it for you on a big machine that we have that's automated, and we can set up and do teeth and rakers all in one. But if you are hand filing, these are the most common methods. It's going to be just a hand file like this, or this 2-in-1 sharpener there. Also, one thing to remember is dressing your bar. So this is like a bar dresser here, file. So when you have the chain off, the actual rails on the bar need to be touched up every once in a while to make sure that they are flush and parallel, so they're not getting worn in with edges on them. Sometimes that chain will ride down into those grooves and wear them, and you can also kind of mushroom out and you'll get sharp edges on the outside. So you can take this thing, this sits flush up against the bar with no chain on there, and you can file that top lip of that bar, as well as coming in at a 45 to kind of touch the corners up so they don't have that sharp lip coming off the top.